On the 2nd of November 1982, the UK gained an extra television channel, which promised to be inspiring and sometimes controversial. Channel 4 was born, and love it or hate it, you could never ignore it. And as it was the channel that brought us the red triangle, it's not surprising we have very strong language throughout, and scenes and images of a sexual nature, as we celebrate Channel 4 at 25, here on More 4.
I've often wondered why the TV had all those spare buttons.
Of course, number 4 was spare until we tuned it in.
Actually, this awfully nice TV man did ours for us.
And for most of the country, it all starts on the 2nd of November. All right?
"25 years ago, a new channel was launched on the nation. This is its story, and the story of our times. It's a journey that's inspiring, sometimes infuriating, but never dull. So, let's start at the beginning.
I was 7 years old. I was well chuffed because we only had 3 channels, which, to be honest, it is pathetic, isn't it? 3 channels.
Well, it was kind of going to be everything, but hip as well, with the right haircuts and the right trousers.
It was really sort of snobby, middle class and very hippie-ish.
To be honest, the opening night of Channel 4 is a bit of a haze. I think it's a mixture of exhaustion and alcohol, probably. I mean, you can't imagine the moment when you're all gathered there and music happens and a screen lights up and all of a sudden a whole new television channel that you've made launches on the world.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be able to say to you, welcome to Channel 4.
I decided to start with a complete night's programming, not just with one special program, but with a complete evenings, late afternoon and evenings programming, because I wanted to say the channel wants to be judged by everything it does, not just by plums from a plum cake, not just by goodies. So we started, would you believe, with Countdown.
Oh, and it was just so exciting. And then the countdown music started, and then Richard was on. And what were his words? He said, as the countdown to a new channel ends, so a new countdown begins. Oh, he thought it was Neil Armstrong.
Hello, good evening, and as the countdown to a brand new channel ends, a brand new countdown begins.
Just before the Channel 4 news, a look ahead to later this evening. At 8 o'clock, there's the first episode of Brookside.
The opening night was a very careful signal to the world of what it was going to be. And it was going to be absolutely surprising. And if you thought you'd got us, the next thing we did would make it absolutely sure that you'd understand that you hadn't.
Next up was Brookside, the radical new soap that would give the channel a distinctive voice for the next 20 years.
The opening night of Channel 4. I watched it on tape years later, to be honest with you, because on the opening night, we were still trying to put Brookie to bed. And we then had to have the kind of opening night celebration of the fact that we actually saw our programme on air, you know.
And what time did you get in last night? Or should I say this morning?
I haven't been to bed yet, Mum.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me. I'm amazed you remembered where we'd moved to.
I remember sitting watching the opening night with Stephen Fry and Hugh Laurie and Robbie Coltrane. We were in Manchester. Robbie was in Five Go Mad in Dorset, so he was very sort of excited about it.
This is grand! Yes, I think we ought to pay you double price for these gorgeous ice creams.
No, young gent. I wouldn't hear of taking your money, but it's right down nice.
Apart from Robbie Coltrane in drag, Five Go Mad in Dorset offered early sightings of Dawn French and Jennifer Saunders. The rest of the quirky schedule included book club, a national keep fit class called Body Show, the serious drama Walter, and a feminist cabaret in the Pink.
Isn't she lovely?
And so ended night one of Britain's first new TV channel for 18 years.
Thank you very much indeed for being with us on this very historic day in British broadcasting. As with any new baby, I hope you'll stay with us and watch us grow. And on behalf of everyone here at Channel 4, can I say thanks again for tuning, and do tune in again tomorrow at 4:45.
Jeremy once said to me he thought it was the best night's programming there'd ever been in the history of the world. The scheduling was so sensational.
Margaret Thatcher had been in power for 3 divisive years when Channel 4 arrived on British television in November 1982.
In the early 80s, it was pretty grim in Britain. Coming out of the 70s, there was huge amounts of unemployment. Manufacturing had broken down. And there were these riots in Brixton, St Paul, in Bristol, Manchester, Liverpool, and so on. And you felt some nights that the whole country was going to sort of burn down.
But victory in the Falklands earlier in the year had strengthened her hand enormously. The channel launched itself into a Britain where the Iron Lady was clearly in the ascendant.
Margaret Thatcher wanted to see counterbalancing forces to the BBC, and she felt perhaps some of the time that they were not on her side in as quite as wholehearted a way as she would have liked.
So, of course, they invent Channel 4, all of these new businesses set up to produce this diversity and plurality of content. I suspect, if I was right, that Margaret Thatcher would have wanted programmes on port and fine wines and yachting and all the rest of it.
The new chief executive had other ideas. Jeremy Isaacs was a veteran of both the BBC and ITV. But here, he wanted a revolution. And with his new channel financed by advertising money from ITV, he had the funds to launch it.
And as we started, we made it as different and distinctive as we possibly could be. There was no point in being 2 points pinker or greyer or more purple than that. Why not be 20 points more, and really wake people up?
What I remember about the early days of Channel 4, which was sort of fantastic, was that because Jeremy Isaacs had that mentality that I think he likened it to Meadowland, didn't he? He said it was like Meadowland scheduling. So, you just throw out loads of seed and you don't know what you're going to get. You would go from a documentary about Iran to a comedy to a thing, basket weaving. It was just like someone had thrown the programmes into a hat, wasn't it?
It was a shame that the programme didn't show the other dark side of the capuchin monkeys which are trained to help quadriplegics.
And welcome to a small piece of television history.
It's a petition asking the government to ban VAT on all sanitary wear.
Broken head or leg, I know what they are, but not a broken heart.
Some people, I believe, have none to break.
There's nothing more relaxing than sort of being in a bath.
And like straight society, history too is ignorant of homosexuality.
I believe that Britain is undergoing the critical phase of its post-colonial period.
I used to say to the commissioning editors when I became director of programmes, if you're going to take risks and be innovative, you get things wrong, you do. But you don't get forgiven for wasting that opportunity. They will forgive us anything, except being cowardly with this fantastic remit.
Before that, it was a nightmare getting your gear on telly at all. You'd go around to the BBC and say, I've got this idea about a guy who runs a corner shop and he's Pakistani, and they go, why do they have to be Pakistani? Why can't they be English? And there were no black or Asian directors. The whole thing was completely honky in those days.
The Channel 4's decision to have a different type of multicultural programming worked, because what we used to do was to give voices from below, let people speak for themselves.
Good evening and welcome to Easter Night.
So Desmond, what about you?
Don't look at me. I don't know anything about flowers. I'm not a florist.
You don't know anything about hair, but you're still a barber.
Hi. Looking ahead to tomorrow evening now. At 11 o'clock, we'll be showing the first of a 6-part series called Behind the Thin Blue Line. And we'll be going to have a look at the SPG dance training scheme at Hendon Police College. And everybody here at Channel 4 is really excited about this show.
One of the key characteristics of the early days of Channel 4 was playfulness. Some people would say amateurishness. And Jeremy went to Brazil, where these amazing soap operas, fantastically popular, the whole of Brazil watches these 18 million episode soap operas. So this appalling series called Isaura the Slave Girl was put on the channel, and people who tuned in expecting, very serious arguments about Vietnam were confronted with this ghastly, cheap, schlocky, romantic stuff from Brazil.
That is Isaura? Martina has been confiding in me her passionate appreciation of music. Come, play us something on the piano.